guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled I Will Be Happy When My Grandmom Reaps What She Has Sown. So, my mum is overweight. My grandmom was a horrible parent who apparently went on tirades when my mum and her sisters were young about nothing in particular. Because of this, my mum developed an eating disorder and social anxiety. My aunts all have social anxiety too, and at least one of them also has a similar eating disorder. My mum is really the only sister in the family that actively has us around my grandmom, and probably only because she wants to see me and my siblings, her grandkids. Everyone else refuses to be around her if they can help it, only ever seeing each other at family gatherings, and even then, not everyone shows up. My grandmom also constantly berates my grandpa to the point I think she'd rather prefer a butler than a husband. My grandpa is a sweet man who has dyslexia. Because back when he was young, they didn't have a way to diagnose or treat dyslexia. He was just told he was stupid and grew to believe he was worth nothing except the manual labor he could provide. He's 78 now and he got laid off as a forklift operator a year ago during COVID, because apparently, they considered him a potential workplace hazard. With no work, my grandpa is becoming depressed, and it's not getting any better due to my grandmom seeming to think that he should just do everything for her. One of my aunts, who is a lesbian, this is important later, lives with her, and if her and my grandpa didn't live there, my grandmom would starve. They cook the food, they clean, and she sits on her fat ass watching Law and Order all day. And on top of that, my grandmom verbally abuses my grandpa quite a lot. She calls him fat, she's twice as fast as him and he's in good shape for his age, useless. That he should work when she knows very well he can't, and I don't know if she understands telling him he needs to work or that's all he's good for is just really beating him down, and it's doing what everyone else has done to him. My grandmom also seems to be incapable of understanding when someone else has an experience that isn't face value. Me and my brother are autistic, he found out before I did, and we both have sensory processing disorder too. When my grandmom found out, she became confusingly offended, as if someone had just diagnosed her instead of my brother. She exclaimed that, "That's just my brother," and telling us we shouldn't need to give him medicine because they can't fix how someone is. I heard this secondhand through my mother, and I almost lost my crap. How ducking dare, she says that. I have to live with a brother who at the drop of a pin could fly into a panic attack, and she has the audacity to say that this is just him. I love my brother and I don't want to see him so miserable. Why is that bat so incessant on things she can't understand? Recently, I was diagnosed with something similar to my brother along with OCD and GAD, and I told my parents never to tell my grandmom because if she found out and tried to say those things, she said to my brother to me I might go insane. I also a while back came out as non-binary to my parents, who were very accepting. But again, I have not and will not tell my grandmom about it because I guarantee she will, if anything, refuses to use my new name and pronouns strictly out of spite. To help calm me with the stress of coming out, my parents told my aunt was lesbian, and she had told my grandparents, who were apparently fine with it, but it does explain quite a lot. It explains why my grandmom makes all those strangely sexual jokes about women in front of my aunt, or why she doesn't seem to like her going out because my aunt might meet someone. A couple months ago, for a present for my grandpa, me and my mum wanted to record my grandpa telling stories about his family because he's very fond of talking. We were going to compile the stories and some pictures into a book for my aunts and my grandpa. He has a huge box of photos in their basement, and we had called my grandmom to ask her to get them out before we came. We told her we needed them so we could ask my grandpa questions to get stories out of him. This phone call was about 3 hours before we went over, and when we finally come over, we find the pictures nowhere to be found. And not only was my grandmom just watching television, but she hadn't even told my grandpa we were coming over. Her excuse: "You don't need those old pictures. They're too buried down in the basement anyway." Going downstairs, we find the box of pictures in plain sight underneath something else. While we were recording the stories in the dining room, my grandmom sits in the living room refusing to turn down the television and interjecting into our conversation once every 10 minutes to say something redundant. Needless to say, I despise my grandmom. I think I love her because she's family, but I'm beginning to think that it's not deserved whatsoever. I am going to revel in the guilty joy of when my grandpa passes away and she gets sent to an old person's home and nobody comes to visit her. She'll be alone because she couldn't care enough to love anyone. We all gave her chance after chance after chance, and she refused it every time. The next story is titled Am I the A-hole for often parking in front of somebody else's house? A little background information. I, 28M, live in an outer suburb of my city but work in a somewhat affluent inner-city suburb. My city does not have very good public transport infrastructure, and as such it is cheaper and more time efficient for me to drive to work. My city is also in a rental crisis, so I can't really move house to be better positioned to not drive to work. My work is situated on the corner of a built-up commercial street but is on a residential street itself. In front and around my work is only 2 hourly parking, and our car park only has 3 spots, with more than 10 staff driving in regularly. I work on site 5 days a week. Further down the street there is all-day parking on the side of the road, in front of people's houses. The houses on this street don't often have their own driveways and presumably if they have cars, they have to park them on the street which is lined with cars all the time. I park my car wherever I can find an all-day park, which is often in the exact same place, but around the same stretch of houses. Today when I got into my car, a woman emerged from the house I had parked in front of. She proceeded to knock on my passenger side window, asking to talk to me. I wound down the window and yelled at me telling me that I can't park there, and that I park there all day every day, which is not true, and because of me she has to walk further to her car. She told me that she was sick, and it was hard for her to walk, which genuinely made me feel bad. I responded with, "I'm allowed to park here, but I'll park elsewhere when I can." She continued to yell, telling me that I was in front of her house, and that this is an unwritten rule. I ended with, "Okay, have a good day," wound up the window and drove away. This is the second time I've been yelled at on this street for parking in front of someone's house. The first time it happened, I made sure not to park there again. Mostly to save myself the headache. But now that this has happened again, I'm wondering, am I the a-hole? Comment said not the a-hole. The real a-hole are the people who cannot organize adequate parking for everyone in the workplace. I say nah because I understand this woman's frustration. My grandmother has had her carers unable to park because people working locally park right outside her house. I've actually been trapped in her driveway because someone was allowed to park on the street there and therefore saw no issue with blocking my car in her driveway. In my view you aren't the but now you know it's upsetting someone, parking elsewhere would be wise. Another comment said not the a-hole if you choose to live in a home without private parking. You accept that you will have to rely on free off-street parking, same as everybody else. It's very entitled of her to expect the parking directly outside her home to be left free just in case she needs to use it. Maybe the residents need to request resident-only parking and permits, but as it stands, you're as entitled to park there as she is. The next story is titled Shady Medical Debt Collector Gets Caught with Their Pants Down. A few years ago, pre-Rona, I had a serious medical incident. Not going into too many details, but I wound up spending a few months recovering in the hospital in the largest city near where I was living at the time. This was 3 to 4 hours drive from my hometown. At the end of my stay in the major hospital we decided I would be transferred to a physical rehab hospital in my hometown for further recovery and PT. This meant I needed an ambulance transfer back home. We got the arrangements made with a national ambulance company and the day of the transfer was smooth, nothing I needed to worry about, or so I thought. Fast forward about 6 months. I have recovered and have returned to work at the same employer and suddenly started getting collections letters concerning my ambulance ride. I call my insurance company to ask what the heck, and they have no record of that trip ever being submitted for payment. They see where the first hospital was billing, then boom, the rehab hospital starts billing, nothing in between. I call the ambulance company and talk with their customer support and inquire what the heck is the deal with going straight to collections instead of submitting it to my insurance. They claim they did that. I must have ignored the bill. Spoiler alert, I am on a HDHP, meaning once I hit a certain out-of-pocket dollar amount my insurance pays 100%. I don't even see the bill unless I log into the app and look at my charges. I explain this and the representative is very dismissive that such a thing exists. I direct them to recall my account from collections and to submit the claim to my insurance as they should have done in the first place. 3 months later I am still getting letters and harassing phone calls are now coming in at all hours. I contact my insurance and explain the situation and how I had tried to resolve this 3 months ago, but they are being extremely shady. I offered to three-way call the AMBO company again, and the insurance representative, who I got the sense was really looking forward to stomping a shady provider, was totally up for it and even had their supervisor come on the line as backup. I place the three-way call and get through the menus to talk to an actual human and start my spiel, and the AMBO representative is adamant that no, they submitted the bill and I was just shirking my responsibilities. This is when the two insurance reps speak up and request proof that the claim was submitted. This is when I inform the AMBO representative that, oh yeah, I have my insurance provider on the line so we can get this resolved, since the AMBO company has been very uncooperative in that regard. Over the next 20 minutes or so the AMBO representative tries to lay it off as the crew that transported me didn't submit the run sheet for my transfer. Insurance reps smell blood and start in on, if the run sheet was never submitted, then how did they submit the account for collections? No good answer for that. After AMBO representative passes the call up a level or two to get to someone that has the authority to cancel a collections account and resubmit the claim for my run, I am satisfied. The insurance reps are happy since they found an incident to hit them with in their next contract negotiation, and the AMBO reps have reached the end of their ropes. We end the call and I go on about my life. I did receive one more letter in the mail a few days later, but that was obviously in transit when I made my call. The next story is titled "Let Your Dog Crap in Our Yard." I bring it back to you. My GF wife now lived in a rented house. It was a nice neighborhood. We were outside playing with her 3 daughters, who at the time were 3, 5, and 8. The guy next door opened his door up and let his dog out. The dog ran straight to my wife's yard and took a big crap. Well, it just happens the day before her youngest daughter had fell into a pile of dog poo. We had no idea where it had come from. So, I go over to the guy's house and knock on his door. I say, "Hello. Your dog just came next door and crapped in our yard. My wife's daughter fell into dog poop yesterday. I'm sure it was from your dog. Can you please keep your dog in your yard?" The guy looked me in the eye and said, "My dog can crap where he wants." I said, "Are you sure that's how you want to handle this?" He said, "F off." I said, "Okay, have a nice night." I then went and got a plastic bag. Picked up his dog poo. I walked back into his yard. Left a note on his car windshield with my phone number. Then I smeared the dog poo on his windshield. The note said, "If you have a problem with this, contact me. Every time your dog craps in my yard, I will bring it back home to you. Thank you for your help." We had no more problems with the dog. The next story is titled "I Am Making a Tudor-Style Revenge Dress." If you don't know what a revenge dress is, just Google it. You might be wondering why TF I am making a Tudor revenge dress. Let me take you back 9 years when I started dating my ex. I was 27 and he was 21. We dated from November to February. In this time, he got really intense, like not even a month in, asking why I wasn't thinking about kids with him, getting mad that I won't let him take care of me, trying to change how my roommate at the time did things in our apartment. Insisted that he was living with me, even though I stated, absolutely not. Not until you have lived on your own for a year at least. He was in his last year of college and living at home, condescending my independence. Upset if I asked for some alone time. I had to ask that I have a day alone or tell him I was having a sister night. And by the end I am pretty sure he was trying to get me pregnant. At the end of February, when I start to look forward to the warm months, I realized the idea of spending time with him, I was miserable at the idea. So, I broke up with him. For the next 6 months he stalked and harassed me, asking when we could be friends again. Mutual friends we are, telling me he was insistent that he was going to get me back. I swear he thought everything in life was going to be like the movies or TV. He finally left me alone when he met the woman that became his wife. He got her pregnant and then got married before the year was over. But the damage was done. I was a shell of a human who withdrew from the very small social scene in my area. He even had wormed his way into my oldest circle of friends that I never introduced him to, so I couldn't even hang out with my other friends. He burned bridges with the friends I met him through, so he finds a new circle of people too. A year or so later my now boyfriend moves to the area. He is in the SCA, basically historical lapping, and my ex has joined the SCA, so they meet and become friends. Long story short, my ex hasn't learned boundaries and that he can't just manipulate everyone around him without some people catching on, and he damaged his friendship with my now boyfriend. A year ago, in September, my boyfriend and I start dating and he finds out I'm that Kelly Green 802, and we share stories and puzzle pieces get put into place. He is a bit worse than either of us thought. Anyway, My BF wants me to go to an SCA weekend event and I love to sew and wear costumes. So I am down. I made a simple dress and made a persona for the event. He did warn me that X will probably be there, and I say that's fine, I can ignore him. Side note. We live in a small community, so my BF was trying to mend the fence with him, and I said I can ignore him, but I will not interact with him until he apologizes for how he behaved after the breakup. He talked to X and said if you want to come to the things I host here, you will have to talk to Kelly. The camping weekend comes, and I was very able to ignore him even if we were in the same group of people. But apparently after that weekend he asked my BF not to bring me to any events. Fast forward to now and my BF wants me to go to the holiday event in January. I plan on making the most elaborate Tudor gown with beading and layers of fabric, and because of my BF's rank in the make-believe kingdom court I can wear a circlet as I am his consort. It is going to piss him off so much. I will update after the event if this gets any attention. The next story is titled If You Need an Upgraded Room, Book the Upgraded Room. Not even the first time this has happened this week, but this guy just came in and yelled at me because he booked a standard King Studio suite, with his points may I add, so he's not paying crap, and he's upset we didn't upgrade him. He went on and on to me about how upsetting it is because he's been a member for so long even though he only has 122 points and is at a gold level. It goes club, gold, platinum, diamond. I kept apologizing and frankly I was gonna try to upgrade him until he started going off on me. Mind you, he's literally only here for one night. He said he spoke to our company a month ago and they told him they spoke to us and that we would upgrade him. He gave me the name of who they spoke to and literally no one works here by that name. I told him our company has us upgrade diamond and platinum members and apologized, again. Until he told me to stop apologizing if I'm not gonna help him. Like I get it, it's inconvenient. But I don't know that he called the company and actually talked to them. But even if that's the case, don't be rude to someone who is just doing their job, dude. Point blank. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.